This lesson will pick up where the last lesson left off. It will cover topics on completing a survey, including responding to the various question types that weren't covered in the last lesson, and submitting a survey response. We're going to pick up where we left off last time, which is on page or section 3 of the training participant survey. The third section is about the training. The first question here is, how long did it take you to get to the training site? This is what's called a units question. It allows me to enter in a number at the left and actually change the units from the right-hand side. Now I can see I can choose 12 minutes or I can choose 12 hours. I'm going to choose 12 minutes and move on to the next question. The next question asks, where did you come from today? This is a location question, and you must respond with the GPS coordinates of a location. There are a few options for setting your location. The first option is the current location option. This is the button that is used most often for this question. This will use the GPS on your device to register the GPS coordinates where you're located. GPS stands for Global Positioning System, which consists of a set of satellites which send out a signal that is received by your device to calculate its position on the globe. This system does not require a cell or Wi-Fi connection to function. That having been said, the accuracy and speed of obtaining a good signal may be improved when connected to a mobile network. Other satellite systems like Beidou, Galileo, GLONASS, and others may also be used by devices to obtain GPS coordinates. When the current location button is selected, a colored box will appear below which says waiting for GPS signal. This will quickly change to a message that shows the strength and accuracy of the GPS signal and two buttons below. The plus or minus 11 meters is the accuracy of the GPS signal. If the signal is not very strong, MWater will wait 10 seconds to try to obtain a better signal. If the device does not have an accurate GPS location, it will ask the user whether they would like to use anyway. Some causes of a poor GPS signal are being indoors or under a tree without a clear view of the satellites in the sky that the GPS uses, not having the GPS set to high accuracy mode, not having updated the Google Maps app, or not being in range of many different satellites. However, this is not very common. Since I'm inside right now, I'm going to click the button Use Anyway. Once the GPS coordinates have been registered, MWater will display a message that says Location Set Successfully and show the GPS coordinates, elevation, and accuracy off to the right. If you look at the right-hand side, this will also show a question mark, which, when clicked, will show more information about this question. These help items can be found next to many different questions to provide more information for enumerators. I'm going to click the X button to exit out of this page. The next button on this location question is the Use Map button. This will open up a map where users can set their location. By dragging on the screen with my finger, I can move the icon around to any location. By clicking the plus or minus buttons, this will zoom into the map. And by clicking on the target icon at the bottom, the map will zoom to my current location. By clicking the Set Location Here button, MWater will save the GPS location of where the icon was placed on the map. Sometimes survey administrators will disable this function so that enumerators have to use the device's GPS location instead. If I click the Clear button, this will remove the GPS coordinates that were saved. I can also see the Advanced Location Settings button, which will allow more options, like entering the GPS coordinates manually and entering in a mast height or depth for registering water system assets that may be buried underground. It's not recommended to enter in coordinates manually because this is very prone to error, so your survey admin may disable this function. I'm going to click Hide Advanced Settings. Let's move on to the next question, which says, where is the nearest water point? This is called a site question, and you can tell that because there's a Select button on the right-hand side. Site questions are where you can connect the survey up to a site like a school, household, or water point. This can be done by either choosing a site from the map or list entering in the ID manually, or creating a brand new site. Each site has a unique ID which will never be repeated. If you know the ID of the site, you may enter it in the text box. Most users don't know the site ID, so they have to click the Select button. This will bring up a page with a map on the top and a list at the bottom. The list is a list of sites which are shown on the map, starting with the one closest to the center. It's important to note that clicking on the target icon will zoom to the user's current location, and they can simply click on the appropriate point from the list or map, and then click the Select button. Alternatively, users can search for a site's name, ID, or custom ID by using the search box at the top, and then clicking on the item from the list, and then clicking on Select for that item. If the site is not found in the list or does not yet exist in the mWater system, users can click the Add button to create a new one. Adding sites will be covered in a later lesson, so we'll come back to that. Let's select a water point that is nearest to our location, so that should be the first one in the list. This will enter in the ID in the text box and show a gray box below with the name, ID, and a photo for reference. The next question is another radio button question that asks, have you ever used a smartphone before? If you select yes, you'll see that a new question appears below it which asks, which of the following apps do you use? This is called a conditional question. So if the condition is not met and I select no, I've never used a smartphone before, then it wouldn't make sense to ask the next question about app usage. I'm going to select yes so that the next question appears. This question is called a multi-check question. You can see this because the icons on the left are squares instead of circles, and I can select multiple choices from the list. For example, I use WhatsApp, Facebook, and Skype. Moving on, we have a question that asks, what did you eat for breakfast? This type of question is what's called a text list question. It appears as a normal text box, but when I click it, I can add multiple items. For example, as you can see, I've added 3 items to the list: cereal, orange juice, and bagel. I can add as many items to the list, but if I want to remove one, I simply click on the X to the right, and it'll remove one of the options. Moving on, the next question asks, how many family members do you have? As you can see, there's actually multiple areas where you can add data. This is called a matrix question. A matrix question is similar to a table. So for example, if I have 3 members in my family, I have 1 daughter, which would be a child, a female child, so 1. I have 1 son, which would be a male child. I have 1 wife, which would be a female adult. And I have me. The next question is called a roster matrix. You can see this because the table starts out blank, but there's a button below where you can click Add. This will add a row. You can add as many rows as you'd like. The question asks, do you have any pets? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to put in the name of my pet, Fluffers. The type is dog, and then I'm going to add another one. One named Mr. Biggles is a cat, or I can choose other and put ferret. Once I've put in my 2 pets, I can go down to the next question. The next type of question is called a roster group. Question groups can be just like a roster matrix where the user can add as many as they want, or it can refer to a previously defined question. As you can see above, I have Fluffers and Mr. Biggles as my 2 pets, and now in the follow-up questions, Fluffers and Mr. Biggles will be in the list. So now it'll ask 2 questions for each of these pets. The first is how old they are. Mr. Fluffers is 10, and how friendly they are: unfriendly, neutral, and friendly. This question is what's called a Likert question. Likert questions are usually used to measure on a scale from positive to negative. The second pet, I'm going to put 2 years old, and I'm going to say that this pet is unfriendly. I can always use the Add button to add another pet. Now that the survey response is complete, we can submit it. By clicking on Submit, I will be taken to the Tasks page. From here, I can go to the Home page and click Sync Now to make sure my data is synced to the mWater cloud. This concludes the lesson. To review, we've covered how to complete a survey response, including responding to various question types like units questions, which put a number and a unit together into one question, location questions, which provide a GPS location of a place, site questions, which connect surveys up to physical places in the world to track over time, conditional questions, which will only appear if certain conditions are met, multi-check questions, where you can check multiple boxes, text list questions, where you can input multiple items of text, matrix questions, where users can enter in data to a fixed table with rows and columns, roster matrix questions, where users can enter in data in a table and add as many rows as they'd like, and roster group questions, where users can enter in a group of questions and repeat those questions as many times as they'd like. And lastly, how to submit a survey response and synchronize to make sure that it's uploaded to the cloud. This concludes the lesson. Thank you for watching.